Hello there, thank you for buying one of my products. This is the single photo frame kit. Here's a short guide on how to put it together. So in your pack, and this is the original one, in your pack you will have one frame, one base, three half-inch pieces and a stand. And the first thing to do is decide which way you want your photo frame to go, whether you want it to be a landscape frame or a portrait frame, so that you can cut your paper accordingly. And then onto the actual frame you want to put your runners, and these are there so that you can slide photos in and out of the frame easily without taking the frame apart or permanently sticking them in. So take some glue or tape, and on your just one side of your frame, just put your glue around the three edges like that. I'm road testing this new 3-in-1 glue by Beacon. Up until now I've used tape to do this, but tape or glue works. This is supposed to be a grip fast glue, so we'll see. So stick them in place and line them up with the outer edge. Let's move everything away from underneath. Like that, your pieces will come right down to the end. And then that forms the rise between the base and the actual front of the picture frame. And then you want to choose your papers and cut them, one for the large flat chipboard piece. So I have cut my paper approximately an inch larger than the actual size of the chipboard, and then do the same with your frame as well, just bearing in mind which way the pattern's going on the paper when you cut it out. And then you want to stick both of these boards to the paper, and the frame you stick with these runners upwards. So flip it over, put your tape or glue. You don't need to put too much on, it just needs to hold the paper to the chipboard. So let's stick that down. Let's try and centre it up. If you've got stripes or a pattern, then pattern that's got a line in it, you need to make sure that your frame is sitting on the line of the pattern, otherwise it will drive you nuts. And then just move that out of the way. Do the same with the backing board. With any board you want to put not just tape or glue around the outside, but down the centre as well, so that the paper doesn't lift away from the board, and then stick that one down. Like that. And then take your scissors. If you want to use your little stand as a guide, which is your small piece, this size, you can. So use it as a guide with a pencil. Just grab the pencil. You put it across your corner and then draw a pencil line on the outside. And then you cut on that pencil line to leave about 1/8 of an inch of paper sticking out at the corner of, or each of the corners. So cut all 4 corners like that, and then we're ready to start sticking the paper down onto this side. So lift up, push away from yourself, start the crease going along that edge, and then crease, and do the same on the other side. So get a nice tight fold around the board, and then use your tape or glue to hold those 2 sides down. I'm going to put some glue on the paper and the board. So do the long sides first. Let's see how good the glue is. It's supposed to be grip fast. That's good. So stick the sides down. Like that. Just give it a minute. And then at the ends, where you've got the paper sticking out over the chipboard, you just want to push the sides in. There's a little triangle sticking up. Push that in and over the corner of the chipboard before you crease and stick your end down. And then the chipboard's covered and you get a really nice corner. So we'll do glue again. Let's just try it on the paper this time. And then do the other side. So little triangles, push them in across the top of the chipboard. It also pulls the side of the paper in on that angle as well. And then lift up to crease and tape or glue to stick it down. Like that. And then once you've got, oh, mine's coming up. Oh, naughty, it's supposed to stick. And then once you've got that in place, cut yourself a piece of card or same paper or corresponding paper that's 1/8 of an inch smaller, so 8 1/8 by 5 7/8, and that goes onto the back to hide all of those joins. So that actually is the back of your frame. So stick that in place. Brayer's good just to flatten everything down. Flip it over. You could emboss it or jazz it up however you like. So that's the back. And then depending on whether you want portrait or landscape, you decorate your stand, score it on one side only, 1 inch from one short edge, and then that gets stuck onto your frame. You line it up, centre it up, line it up with the bottom edge, whichever edge it is that you're wanting it to stand up from, and then you stick that section down. So I'm just going to cover both sides of this with paper, and the side that lifts up is the right side and the underside is obviously the wrong side. So I'm just going to cover mine with paper on that side. I'm going to trim the paper off right up to the edge of the chipboard, but you could do like we did with the frame and actually fold it around and then stick the black card on the top of the back. But I'm not. I'm going to cut both sides right up to the chipboard and then just ink the edges of that little stand. So I'm going to leave that to dry while we're doing the front of the frame. That one's drying, that's our backing board. Bring your frame back in and then get yourself a craft knife and a craft mat. Put your frame on the craft mat and from the corner just press and cut towards the middle of the paper. It doesn't have to be precisely the middle. What you want to do is to cut these little flaps. But come from the corner to the centre rather than the centre to the corner. And then push from underneath so that you get a really nice crease around that inside frame. Like that. And then you want to, these pieces want to sit inside these runners. So you want to cut them off so you've got about ½ an inch of paper left, just enough to lift and fold and sit on that inside frame. What you can do as a guide, the top one's okay because that can just sit flat. Let's trim that one down so it's not fitting into anything. But what you can do is put it back over the frame, let's move that, and then just with your fingers or a bone folder, just crease it and fold it where it touches that framed edge, and then cut just inside that line, and then you know it will sit in that space. So crease and fold it, and then you've got a cutting guide. And just cut under that line. So how are we doing? Let's cut a little bit more off this one. And then put tape or glue to stick these flaps down, whichever you're using. All the way around. And then push your flaps onto it, maintaining that really nice tight crease on the inside frame edge. Let's see if I can go around. No, let's just do one at a time. Can I do this one? Yep. And that one. You don't want them to interfere with where your photograph's sitting, but what you can't see is all of these sort of grey bits on the inside, they get hidden. And then the top one. And just turn it over, and then just sort of push the corners right into the corner, but just do it with your fingers or a bone folder. So you've got a perfect frame. And then on this side, do what we did before. You want to cut just slightly more than 1/8 of an inch away from the corner. Just do that on each one, because we've got more thickness to cover. And then do your folds first. So fold and crease. Now it's going over 2 thicknesses this time of chipboard. And again, you want to trim your paper back so that it sits on the riser and it doesn't interfere with that centre space. So trim it back a little bit. You want it wide enough to fold around the edge and stick down, and narrow enough so that it just sits no wider than that side riser. So I think we're okay. So stick your long sides down first. Like that. Putting them nice and tightly around that two thicknesses of chipboard. Naughty paper. Like that. And then do the end with the riser next. So push the corners in, really flatten them round, crease it, trim it if you need to, just trim a little bit off. I always start off with my paper slightly larger and then trim down, but you could cut it exactly. That would be ½ an inch bigger than the actual frame. So that's that end done. And then this top end, you do exactly the same. So you fold your corners in, and then I'm going to put my glue or tape on the paper, and then just a little bit down the side of those risers. So what we want this to do is to stick down like that, and then you want to press it down so that it just lifts up over the riser, and you get, and it's quite a good idea to do that with the bone folder, because you're making that space to slide your photograph in. And the paper, try not to split it, you don't want it to split, you just want it to be flat in the centerpiece and then rise up over the riser at the sides. So I don't know if you can see, but there's a nice sort of flat gap in the middle, and that's where your photograph goes in. Oh, paper's coming off the other end, naughty. And then when you turn it over, it looks really nice. So let's bring our backing board back in. So all you have to do now is stick the two together with 1/4 inch of the backing board showing around the outer edge. So you only want to glue or tape around the 3 sides, not the side where your photograph is going to slide in and out from. So you're gluing on the outside edge on those risers, and then stick the two together. Now if you're using glue, you can move your piece about until you're happy with where it's placed. If you're using tape, you can do that if you run a trail of glue across the top of the tape. It just gives it a bit of friction. And that's it. That is the photo frame finished. And then you'll be able to see that gap better. So if I bring a piece of paper back in that, if this one will come out, that's the right size, I can show you. That's not the right size, but which end are we going in? In here. So your photos will slide in and out really easily, and that's for a 6x4 photo. And now let's just finish off this stand. So let's trim, the little knife doesn't want to cut. Trim off the paper. Like that. Crease it again. And then let's bring the ink in. Trim off with the scissors. This is just Gathered Twigs ink, Distress ink. Down there. You can always go round and use your markers on the chipboard, it takes really well if you wanted a darker look. And then I'm just going to put the paper on this side, the black. So glue or tape again. Stick it on completely. And then I'm going to use my scissors just to go around and feel where it needs to be cut. So I'm going to rough cut it first and then trim it down. And tidy it up afterwards. You can feel the line of the chipboard with your scissors as you cut, but cut from the wrong side. You get a neater, I think you get a neater cut. So there's the little stand. Refold it, glue on this little piece at the top, or your tape. And then decide which way you want your frame to go. So there's my opening there. I'm going to have it a landscape. Line your straight end of your frame stand up with the bottom of your frame, and then stick. This piece will move away. And that's it. Frame is done. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you enjoy your picture frame, making it and using it. And I hope you come back for some more products. Thanks very much.